Well, let's turn to Eyre. He's a distinguished diplomatic fellow at the Middle East Institute, a career U.S. diplomat. He was on the U.S. negotiating team in the lead up to the 2015 Iran nuclear deal. Alan, welcome back to the program. If this ceasefire, in fact, does hold, how big of an achievement or win, if you will, is this for U.S. President Donald Trump?
Hello, Asieh. It's nice to be back. Yeah, I think, yes, I think President Trump has reaped substantial political advantage from the roll of the dice he took and the way it turned out. It could have easily gone the other way, but for the time being, I think the U.S. administration is claiming victory and hoping that the ceasefire holds. Let's not forget, though, that the long-term problem still remains. Iran's nuclear program has been severely degraded, but now all parties need to return to the negotiating table and try to find a negotiated solution.
Yeah, and I want to talk about that in just a moment, but were you surprised by just how vocal and angry Donald Trump was before leaving for the NATO summit? I mean, he really went after Israel, which we haven't seen. Just over the weekend, they were patting one another on the back and saying nice things about one another. He said Israel unloaded on Iran as soon as we made the deal. He even dropped the F-bomb. I mean, in all this 20 months of conflict in Gaza with over 50 Palestinians killed in Israel's military operation, never once have we seen that kind of anger, that kind of emotion from Donald Trump.
Well, you know, there's a saying in foreign policy that countries don't have friends, they only have interests. And I think President Trump, when he heard of possible large-scale Israeli attacks on Iran after the ceasefire, felt he had to use the substantial political capital and the political leverage he has on Israel to prevent that from happening so the ceasefire would continue. So, yes, I was pleasantly surprised.
So what happens next in terms of what the Iranians here want to see?
Well, the Iranians wanted the hostilities to stop. There's no doubt they were getting the worst of the military exchanges with Israel, so they just needed it to stop, the Iranian people and the Iranian government. Now that it has stopped, on the short term, the Iranian diplomatic team will go back to the negotiating table, I expect. I don't think their red lines have changed. They're very good negotiators, and I don't think that they're going to be necessarily more flexible in their red lines as a result of what happened. On the longer term, I think Iranians' military planners and strategists have already started planning about how to prevent this from ever happening again, because this was a decisive military and strategic defeat for Iran.
Is the world, is the region, Alan, is it safer now than it was 12, 13 days ago?
No, it's less safe. I have a colleague in the think tank world, Mona Yakubian, who said something very nice. She said it's going to be more Hobbesian now, referring to the Hobbesian state of nature. We used to have an international system that worked relatively well in these respects. That seems to have fallen out of use. The international order, international institutions, international fora really have not played any role in this. It's just big power politics buttressed by the strength of the U.S. military. So no, I don't think that the Middle East is any more stable or any more secure as a result of what's happened. And in many ways, this has been a very destabilizing event.
And Iran, this whole entire time, has said its red line, it's enrichment, uranium enrichment. It wants to continue enriching uranium. How much of a problem is that when and if negotiations with the United States gets back on track? We're back to square one.
You're exactly right. I think neither side's red lines have changed. If anything, it could well be the case that the U.S. minimals are more maximalist. They want more from Iran because of this military victory. But as I said, I don't think Iranian red lines changed at all. I think they feel still that if they give too much away at the table, it's a sign of weakness. And if there's one thing this Iranian regime fears, it's showing weakness, because it feels that that will invite further aggression by the West.
Alan Eyre, always a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you, Asieh.